Hello there, good evening and welcome. This is Abuja Dispatch. Be it economic, political, and social life of the people, events break across the body policy, particularly from the nation's federal capital city, Abuja. What we try to do every week, therefore, on this program is to relive to your living rooms those events and issues, and indeed those characters which have shaped the thoughts of many in the outgoing week. Adebuye Garogbodo is my name. Let's start off with those stories that made up our news headlines in the last 7 days.
President Muhammadu Buhari has urged a stronger emphasis on people-to-people relations between South Africa and Nigeria to evolve a bond that will be of benefit to both countries and the entire African continent. President Buhari, who received President Cyril Ramaphosa at the Aso Rock State House, reiterated Nigeria's commitment to improving a special relationship with South Africa, which will translate into gains for the continent, particularly in education, science, trade and investment, tourism and security. At the opening of the 10th session of the Nigeria-South Africa Bi-National Commission held in his office, President Buhari said a strong bond of brotherhood between Nigeria and South Africa would be of great benefit to Africa as a catalyst for economic, technological, social and cultural development and as a force for peace and security on the continent. The federal government will continue to sanction those who bring in personnel into the public workforce by illegal recruitment, part their payroll, and retain ghost workers. President Muhammadu Buhari gave this declaration at the opening of the 3rd National Summit on Diminishing Corruption in the Public Sector. The president warned that his administration would not hesitate to punish heads of ministries, departments, and agencies that fraudulently present new projects as ongoing projects in the budget. The high point of the event, attended by the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Ibrahim Tanko Mohammed, and a representative of the Senate President Ahmed Lawan, was the presentation of the 2021 Public Service Integrity Awards to 3 distinguished Nigerians. The theme of the summit is Corruption and Cost of Governance, New Imperatives for Fiscal Transparency. The Senate has mandated its Committee on Interior to carry out a full-scale investigation into the causes of jailbreaks across the country. The upper chamber also resolved to summon the Minister of Interior, Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola, the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, and the Comptroller General of the Nigerian Correctional Service, Haliru Nababa, to determine the status of correctional centers nationwide with a view to finding out the challenges in order to prevent future recurrence. These formed part of resolutions reached by the Senate following a motion brought to the floor by Senator Estefanus Gyang during Tuesday plenary. Gyang noted with grief the multiple terror attacks on 2 communities of Taigbe, Rigwe Land and Derby, Sherry District in the Basa and Jos East local governments, leading to the death of over 10 persons. The federal government has commenced the 2022-2023 Commonwealth Scholarship and Fellowship Plan, a planned nomination interview for most qualified Nigerians to compete globally. At an occasion to declare open the process, Minister of Education Malam Adamu, who was represented by his permanent secretary, said the award, which is managed by the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission in London, remains one of the most prestigious scholarship schemes for international studies. He said since its inception in 1959, more than 30,000 Nigerian scholars have benefited from the awards, and majority of them have returned to make significant contributions to the development of the nation, particularly in our tertiary institutions.
Drug abuse, addictions, and trafficking have a universal propaganda that transverses across socio-economic, cultural, and religious boundaries. Despite the efforts of the Nigerian tiers of governments and the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, to stem this tide in the country, there has been a consistent rise in the number of cases, especially among the youths. This is our focus tonight on Dateline. Stay with us.
The The consumption of hard drugs in amounts and ways not authorized by medical professionals has become but a silent reality that Nigerians should worry about. Although drug abuse cuts across all social strata, powerful statistics make it abundantly clear that the youths, mostly males with a sprinkle of females, are the real culprits.
Abuse of narcotics has incapacitated the workforce of organizations and is destroying our communities and our society. It has brought about family disintegration, decimated the capacities of our youth, and given rise to all types of crimes such as insurgency, terrorism, banditry, kidnapping, rape, and violent extremism, which have befallen nations, including our dear country, Nigeria, with attendant health consequences on the users.
Studies have shown that there are three main forms of drug abuse. They include the use of mood-altering or psychoactive drugs, performance-enhancing drugs, and dependency drugs. While mood-altering or psychoactive drugs such as codeine and tramadol affects the user's ability to reason and gives him a full sense of well-being, performance-enhancing drugs such as cocaine and heroin gives him extra stamina or energy. Dependency drugs typify the kind of drugs that people abuse in the course of trying to overcome some health issues or challenges or taking to maintain a particular lifestyle. This storming awareness has made getting to the roots of the social challenge more compelling.
Codeine has no place in cough therapy. So we can do without codeine. In fact, most hospitals don't treat cough syrup with codeine. Usually you don't see it on prescriptions. Even before the ban, you don't see it on prescriptions because it doesn't really give you much. If you treat a patient with cough syrup with codeine, it keeps coming back.
You find that Nigeria has been a transit route for illicit substances, and because of that, for substances that cannot find their way out or through the country or find their way into the country are likely going to be abused within the country.
Apart from negative peer influence, unemployment, anxiety, and a continuous need to run away from problems are the major reason why Nigerian youths take to drugs. This, however, may not be the only explanation fueling the social evil. Specifically, the desire by these youths to hide their weaknesses, failure on the part of parents to raise overall healthy children, broken home syndrome, and pressure to succeed at all costs also promotes drug abuse among youths. It has been proven that drug consumption in amount or methods not authorized by medical professionals has in the past led to mental disorder. It has also disrupted the user's education and future, led to poor attitude to work, and caused health problems such as lung disease, heart disease, and death, among others.
From some of the research findings that we have seen, and from the experiences working through communities and everywhere, we can see that we have a growing drug problem and many young people are getting involved. Even considering some of the national research work that has been done, talking about the integrated biological behavioral surveillance survey, most of the injecting drug users they were interviewed were reportedly to be young people.
Presently, and when I say presently, I need always to be careful because the last drug use survey dates now back to 2018, and of course 3 years have passed by in the meanwhile. But at that time, the prevalence was most expressed in the age bracket between 25 and 39 years old. I expect that this is going to probably get increasingly younger, and then we're going to see more and more users also of a younger age.
It is no doubt a socio-economic problem that requires a prompt solution. The Social Development Index showed that the development of young people has gradually deteriorated in the past decade. These adolescent issues and problems should therefore provide useful pointers for designing the Positive Youth Development Program to be judiciously sponsored by government or its reliable development partners. The federal government and its agencies must come up with strategies that will effectively tackle the challenge from its roots. Before now, what the government is doing in this direction is but a palliative measure which can only provide temporary relief while leaving the disease and its ravages unaffected. To succeed in this task, therefore, government must evolve workable strategies towards creating jobs for qualified youths, addressing the challenges facing education sector in terms of funding, and tackling the infrastructural challenges.
Whatever government does to interdict and punish those who peddle and traffic in drugs, I think everybody should go for that. But I always urge government that those who use are victims of a problem and they need help, and we should try to help them.
Reorientation of the youths on cultural values by faith-based organizations and civil society groups will assist them to quit the consumption of illicit drugs and the unwholesome behaviors that endanger their lives and threaten the society. Parents and guardians must strive to monitor their children at all times and be aware of the kind of friends they keep as well as the places they go to. Unfortunately, many young people derive their identity from their peer groups and their extensive social network. Youths, on their parts, must recognize that the future is full of promises as it's fraught with uncertainty. They should therefore develop the capacity to seek activities laced with highest values. After all, drugs addiction, misuse, or abuse have never helped anybody.
Thanks for staying tuned. All eyes are now on the All Progressives Congress APC as it gazes at 2023 following the recently concluded congresses. Meanwhile, many of the views that the multiple crises bedeviling the ruling party right now underscore its inherent contradictions, lack of effective leadership, and inability to manage its evident achievements. Our guest tonight on the next segment is the Director General of the Progressive Governors Forum. It is a no-holds-barred session. Join us again. Welcome to the Split Views segments of our program, ABUJA Dispatch. And on Split Views tonight, we take on the Director General Progressive Governors Forum, Mr. Salihu Lukman. You're welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much.
Between 2015 and now, there is no evidence to show that the APC still enjoys the same popularity rating. I happened to witness a lot of their campaign processes in 2015, and I know the kind of support that Nigerians give to the ruling APC. Within that then and now, even though we have some defections from the opposition parties, do you think that the party is still retaining that confidence and popularity?
You see, you have to get it clear. No party in the world, anywhere in the world, can enjoy the same level of popularity rating. I give you a typical example, President Obama. When he first came in as President of the United States, the popularity rating was high. Before the election that returned him, it dipped down. And you've seen what happened eventually, which led to the emergence of Trump. You are dealing with a human society, and human beings have their expectation, no doubt about it. In 2015, of course, the frustration was all over against the PDP, which is still there. And I keep arguing, part of the major issue that really assisted the APC was the denial mode of the PDP leadership. They had internal problem, but they believe there was no problem. They can continue to manipulate situation. As APC, we came in, certainly there are issues that are still facing us as a country as challenges. Issue of insecurity, and those challenges are not as a result of lack of initiative or lack of response by the government, but they are new dynamic. The good thing which I keep saying, our leaders and our governments are not in denial mode. They acknowledge all of this. And they are working, to the best of my knowledge, to find solution to all these problems. And that is why you find out that as APC, once we notice we are having problem, we have leadership of the party that was not responsive enough to the challenges facing the party. We went into contest in 2019, which created a lot of leadership conflict. And after the election, the leadership of the party under Comrade Oshumole was resistant to any attempt to correct the situation, to reconcile leaders. And our leaders took the right decision by dissolving that leadership and beginning, almost resetting the party to start afresh. And that is why we had to start from what Congress is. So the face of the new APC that is going to emerge is certainly not going to be the APC that people associate with all the problems that are there. And to that extent, therefore, we are going to have a situation that, look at what is happening in some of the flashpoints that you're talking about. Negotiation, even the decision of the national leadership to say, look, congresses should be organized based on consensus. Ideally, in principle, you can contest it. But what I have witnessed in my own constituency was basically a kind of negotiation, a kind of recognition of everybody that is a player, you know. So contest took place in a different mode. So I have confidence, and I think every party member should have confidence that the party is going to be reborn in a way that will raise the confidence of Nigerians. If you see what is happening in other political parties, especially the PDP, you will appreciate that when leaders of the party are not in denial, they take decisions that are painful, but eventually help to resolve internal challenges. But because PDP is in denial, look at what is happening. The party is disintegrating almost by the hour. You know, so and for me, it's not good for the democracy. A party like PDP should not disintegrate. It's not for us to appeal to their leaders, but if they choose, that is the way they want to go, their own business. But the good thing for us in APC is that our leaders are not in denial. So, to come back to your question, we are definitely going to continue to have a situation where ratings, popularity rating of parties will oscillate, will go up, come down. The business of leadership is to be able to understand what is required to respond to the expectations of citizens.
So you pointed out even some members of the party are still doubting whether the party is still retaining that elements of equity and justice as it were. You know, some say that mutual confidence, you know, is gradually diminishing, you know, in some quarters. How has the party, you know, as it is, because in some states we have these leadership structure problems and all that. How has the reconciliation committee been able to go? I mean, how far will you describe their function so far?
The question of internal agitation by members of APC based on strategy to position themselves and negotiate either position in government or place themselves in a very conspicuous position ahead of being recognized for election in 2023. I think that is where, again, we take a lot for granted. And sometimes you as journalists, you need to also help Nigerians to understand some of the dynamics that are being played out. Somebody can position himself, he wants to be a minister of the Federal Republic. He didn't get the ministerial position. Because the person didn't get that, whatever government does is bad. There is a lot of those going on now. Or somebody believes he has aspired or she has aspired to become governor of a state. Because we operate a democracy where the winner take all. You end up with a situation where even the person who came second doesn't have anything. And therefore, on the basis of that, whatever the government does is bad. Now, those are some of the cries going on. And you find out that largely because we are in a democracy where, for instance, PDP never expected to lose 2015 election in the first place. And even in losing, they want to retain the same level of privileges. So those cries are going on. Now, as a member of APC, my responsibility is to look at things objectively. I should be able to say, for instance, if you are crying for justice based on self-centered approach, to tell you, no, I think you are not being fair. So there are many of those things going on, which is not fair to Nigerians and not fair to our democracy. But I think part of the good thing is that at the end of the day, people will understand it's not your cry. And that is what has happened. In the past, before 2015, when people cry like that, government approached them and tried to settle them. Now that is not happening. So that is why part of the cry is loud, because the issue is that we must support government to be focused in terms of delivering public goods. And I think that is what is going on. So my response to your question is that a number of these agitations are not really about the first category of fairness and justice in terms of delivering public goods to Nigeria.
Now, let's shift to another level, sir. Attention seems to have been changing now from governance to the general elections, to the next general elections in the country, within the APC itself. Now, zoning or rotation is an issue that the party, cannot avoid because it's already generating, hits now. And people are saying that whatever comes out of these zoning and rotational principles is what is going to very likely produce the leadership, the presidential candidates in 2023 elections and all that. Now, should that be a shift already now from real action of governance to elections?
I think politics generally is compartmentalized. Those who are saddled with the business of running government will always run government. Those saddled with the responsibility of managing party will continue to manage party. Where you talk of shift is where there is so much interlap, between the two. And there will always be those interlaps because those who are in government will want to contest election and will want to have good relationship with people in the party to be entrusted. So is a constant factor of negotiation. And it's all about basically creating the environment where contestation, negotiation, debate are taking place. And it will continue to take place. And it's healthy for the democracy for that to take place. Remember, we are coming from, I don't know how old you are, but I was very active in Nigeria under military regime. We had a situation where in this country, when transition program produced a situation where the debate is how the military head of state will transit and become elected. Now, that is not the case. At least we have established that once you serve your 2 terms, you are done. So part of the issue why that there is so much buzz about what happened in 2023 is because it is clear the current serving president is not going to be a candidate So everybody, but yet everybody understand as much as he will not be a candidate, he will be a factor. And the good thing about him is that unlike previous presidents we had, he doesn't seem to be frontal in terms of making choice to say, this is who I want, which gives space to party members and citizens generally to influence whatever that is going to emerge.
Our guest tonight has been the Director General of the Progressive Governors Forum, Mr. Salihu Lukman. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you very much.
A major push factor on the high cost of governance and rising personnel budget is illegal recruitment, illegal and unilateral increase in wages and remuneration by some MDAs, indiscriminate local and international travels, unreasonable demands by some political appointee board members of MDAs without regard for extant circulars on cost management, the prevalence of procurement fraud, budget padding, etc. ICPC investigation of some cases of illegal recruitment, for example, forwarded to us by the head of the Civil Service of the Federation, has so far implicated the Ministry of Labour and the University College Hospital Ibadan, and a number of corrupt staff of other MDAs at a lower level. This abuse of power is consummated with complicity of compromised elements in IPs. These cases are currently under investigation. At another level, a syndicate of corrupt individuals within the service corruptly employ unsuspecting Nigerians, issue them fake letters of employment, fraudulently enroll them on IPs, and post them to equally unsuspecting MDAs to commence work. ICPC is prosecuting one of the leaders of the syndicate, from whose custody we retrieved several fake letters of recommendation purportedly signed by the Chief of Staff to the President, some signed by ministers, Civil Service Commission, and other high-ranking Nigerians.
That is how far time can permit us tonight on Abuja Dispatch. For further information, comments, and suggestions, you can reach us out on any of our various social media platforms. Thank you for sharing your quality time with us tonight on Abuja Dispatch. A week from now, we'll bring you another refreshing package. Same time, same station. Adegboyega Arogodo is my name. Have a good night.